I was on a call yesterday with a client that I've worked with for about a year and a half privately, like behind the scenes. And we've got in Inner Wealth Global is my company and our company, and we have a mastermind with I think there's 47 people in our mastermind. We have workshops. We just had a Choose Your Destiny workshop in September. It was like life changing for many, and then many people from the workshop continued on in our mastermind. And in November, we've got another Choose Your Destiny workshop, and again, that's life changing. So I have private clients, people that I work with privately and meet with one on one, and once a week, sometimes by Zoom, sometimes very rarely in person, but sometimes just on the phone. But it's these things are all about moving the needle in your life, in your business, in your health, in your wealth, in the impact that you have in the world, in your relationships, making sure that you're leaving nothing behind, because I do believe that you can have it all at the same time. And it doesn't have to be hard. I think that's the point. Is struggle is optional. There are challenges and obstacles, but struggle is completely chosen, invited, and optional. And we can choose to stop struggling anytime we want and start to upgrade our life. And I do believe that if you're not upgrading your life, if your quality of your life's not doubling every 3 years, you're leaving a whole lot on the table. But anyway, on the phone with, or on a call with this private client for the last year and a half, and it went kind of like this, right? I'm paraphrasing. Mike, I've never felt so good. I feel free. I feel like money is not a problem, and my health's improving, and I got the family that I always wanted, and my family's doing great. And it's a female. And she said, I got the family that I've realized that my family is they're awesome, and there's nothing wrong with them. And, that we're just going through family dynamics, and my kids are growing, and relationships getting better. And just, she's falling into alignment with her true talents and her true gifts, and what she's like actually here on this planet to be, do, and have in the world. And she's starting to, in a career, make an adjustment to get right where she always knew she belonged. And there was, it was an awesome conversation. And we worked for a year and a half, and I've given her tools and concepts and techniques, and I've given her, approaches, and I've given her perspectives. I've given her so much to help her on the journey, that when she's here and she's saying my life is friggin' awesome, and I'm excited about what's happening in my life, I just asked her a simple question. I said, who did that? And her immediate response was, well, you helped. And I said, no, but who did that? And she said, well, I guess I did, but you were a big part of it. And I said, listen, I only played one role this entire time. I held the door open for you. But you walked through. And there have been other people that I've worked with where I've given them the mindsets and the tools and the techniques and the perspectives, the beliefs. I've given them the books. I've given them the same exact content that I've given you, and they would do nothing with it. And they were so fixed mindseted. They were so fixed in their beliefs, in their stories, in their behaviors, in their actions. They were so fixed in who they were that they didn't open up to new ideas, or to new approaches to life, or to new perspectives, or to new interpretations of things outside of them. They wanted things outside of them to change, but they were refusing to change anything that was happening inside of them. And what's happening inside of you has created what you're actually experiencing in your life. I hope this makes sense. And I've worked with people who will do the work, and I've worked with people who won't do the work. And the people who do the work think I'm the person who got them there, and the people who don't do the work think I'm the person to blame that they didn't get where they wanted to go. But the reality is the person who didn't do the work is to blame. And the person who did the work is responsible as well, equally responsible. All I do is hold open the door. It's up to them if they step through. And there's an old sales adage: some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. Like, serve the people that show up and do the work, and let the dead bury the dead. Now, that was a long setup for this. Guys, gals, your stories and your beliefs are running your life. Every single circumstance that you have in your life right now is the result of a story and a belief that you hold. Every single ounce of money that you have in your bank account, every impact that you've made in the world, every success you've had, every failure that you've had, every struggle that you've had, every triumph that you've had, every awesome relationship that you've ever had, every shitty relationship that you've ever had, your health, all of it, everything is a result of the stories and the beliefs that are rattling around inside of your skull. Now, I want to unpack this one. I told you about a client who's winning. I want to tell you about one who hasn't yet started to win. I had my first call with a new client this week, and we dove really deeply, really quickly. And what we discovered is that what they were trying to do is build wealth for them so that they can share it with their family. And the reality is, what I also learned in the process is they were trying to build wealth in their life, and they were struggling at this. They were trying to build wealth in their life so that they could share it with people that they didn't like and people who were constantly tearing them down. And really, in their stories, they didn't want to share their wealth with those people because they didn't like them. and because those people were active adversaries in their life, trying to keep them from creating wealth and belittling them and heckling them. So their intention, because they held the belief in the story that the people who have must share it with the people who don't. The story in their mind was the people in this world who have lots need to distribute it to the people who don't. And when they looked at their family dynamic, the commonly held belief in their family is whoever was rich needed to spread it out, and spread it around. So essentially what was happening through their patterns and through this conditioning and through this programming and through these stories, what was happening that every time they started to get a little ahead, they would lose it, because if they kept building it, they were going to have to share it. Now, I told them about the concept of healthy selfishness. And I also told them about the concept that people that have can only keep helping people if we keep having. And if we refuse to have, then we're not able to serve people regularly and liberally and generously. If we don't allow ourselves to have and continue to have and continue to accumulate, then we run out of the ability to help, to be of service to people. See, the wealthiest and the most successful people that I work with, and I work with a lot of them, are also the most generous, and they're also the most helpful, and they're also the greatest servants that I've ever experienced in my life. And you might have heard the story that the rich are greedy and the rich are evil, and the rich are just stealing from the poor. Now, if you believe these things, those stories are why you're broke. It's those stories are why you struggle with money. If you believe that if you become rich, you will become greedy, you will become evil, you will become selfish, you will look to actively hurt other people. If you believe that having money makes you a criminal, if you believe that having money makes you only think about yourself and hurt other people in the process, if you think that by being rich, in order to be rich, that you need to hurt people, if you're holding these beliefs, you are fucking yourself up. Because it's your stories that are keeping you broke. It's not your inability to make money. It's your stories. Your stories are generating and causing your inability to make money. You see, the way I fixed my marriage and the way I resolved my marriage is I grew up seeing that marriage was hard. And I saw it before my very eyes, and it was expressed to me by, it seemed like everybody in my family, that marriage is hard and it's a common belief. So I made my marriage hard. I literally made my marriage hard because I believed it needed to be hard. And then when I saw what I was doing, that I was living in this story, in this belief, when also that men need to control their families and need to be the frickin', like, not just the breadwinners, but men need to be the person in the family who decides who the family is and what they stand for and what religion they hold and what degrees they're going to get. And when I realized that belief that was shown to me and demonstrated and taught to me like a long time ago in my formative years, when I realized that was absolute and utter bullshit, then I got to pick a different story and a different belief. And I dropped the story that marriage is hard. And I dropped the story that I needed to control and manipulate my family. I dropped the story that I need to program and condition my family. I dropped the story that I needed to decide who my kids were going to become in this world. When I dropped the story that my wife was only here to make my life easier. When I dropped these stories, my marriage got easier. And so did my relationship with my kids. And so did our home life. And so did everything in our life, in our family. And as I was doing this work and dropping my painful stories, my wife was doing the same. And as my wife started dropping those stories too, our marriage got even better. And as my kids started dropping the stories about who we were and how they grew up and how they were raised and what's happening in what life is about, as they drop their stories, it gets even better. Because your stories determine your outcomes, and your stories determine your quality of life. Your beliefs about life is what creates the life that you experience. Life in and of itself is perfect and beautiful. And it's our beliefs that interact with life and really cause things to go either in a very, very challenging way or in a very, very freeing way. And life doesn't do that for you. Your beliefs do. Our beliefs do. Every single one of us. 8 billion people on the planet. We each hold different beliefs, a cocktail of beliefs, a cocktail of stories inside of our mind. And it's those beliefs that are making people fight against each other, hurt each other, damage each other. Wars are started from those beliefs and those stories, those perspectives. It's the stories that create the chaos in this world. It's not the people. The people are fine. It's the stories. Now listen, there's a difference between people and their stories. Think about this. Right now, you're listening to this podcast episode, or you're watching this podcast episode on a device. I want you to look at your device for a second. Take a second and look at your device. In that device, there's hardware and software. When you open your laptop or when you turn on your phone, you're hitting a button, you're hitting hardware, you're turning the device on, and the device is turning on. Hopefully. Now, the hardware is the shell, the case, The hardware is the chipset that's inside of it. It's the memory, the memory storage hardware inside of it. The hardware is the screen. The hardware are the buttons. The hardware is the touch panel. The hardware is all the components that you can touch and see, and that you can interact with. Those are the hardware, right? And then there's the software. The software is the programming that's running behind the scenes that you don't have access to. You can't see it. It's running in the background, and it's making the device function. It's making the hardware function. And if you took that software out, if you took that operating system out, the hardware is absolutely useless. The hardware might be perfectly like in functioning condition, but if you take that operating system out, it stops working. There's nothing that'll work in the laptop or that device, because the hardware by itself can't operate. Now, let's say we took perfectly functioning operating system and software out of the laptop and out of the phone, and we put corrupted hard or software back into the laptop or the phone, and we tried to turn it on. You know what would happen? It would lock up. It wouldn't boot up. It wouldn't lock up. Maybe some apps wouldn't work. Maybe some functionality would work and some functionality wouldn't. Maybe some parts of it would work. Maybe the screen, maybe the laptop would function, but the screen was inoperative and you couldn't see the actual functioning. Either way, if you have malfunctioning operating system, the device is rendered useless in some capacity, because it's the operating system that makes the device go. Here's why I say this. This might be hard for some of you to grasp, but I would encourage you to open up your belief system, open up your mind to a brand new story. There is literally nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You are not defective. You don't need to be fixed. And no one on this planet needs to be fixed, because no one's broken. But if you look at 8 billion people have operating systems, in some cases, that are a little more corrupted than others. It's the stories in their minds and body. It's the belief systems that they're holding that are causing their pain, that are causing their struggle. The thing that separates a really poor person from a really rich person isn't talent. It's their beliefs about money. The person who is in a shitty marriage compared to someone in a perfect marriage isn't about the two people. It's about the two stories that they're telling each other. The person, and look, science is proving this more and more every day. When you study epigenetics and you study neuroplasticity, there's a corrupted story, corrupted belief, corrupted program in your mind, and that's causing disease. That causes disease. But when you fix that story and fix that program, then the body heals itself. And this is why the placebo effect is real, because it's the story that runs the body. It's the belief. It's the thought that determines what happens in the body. And this is why you give somebody a sugar pill and they heal, because they're convinced, and they've convinced themselves that this is going to work, and suddenly it works. It's the belief that it'll work that causes the whatever to work. It's not the thing. It's the story that we tell ourselves about religion that, you could hear. I've heard when I was growing up that, money is the root of all evil. And I say, fuck that. The religion based on guilt and shame is the fucking root of all evil. Politics based on guilt and shame is the root of all evil. People that use guilt and shame against each other, that's the root of all evil. The fact that the media fucking constantly throws bad news in your face, that's the root of all evil, because all of these things, all they're doing is building beliefs, building stories in other people that are then like the cause of circumstances years, if not decades down the line. It's sharing painful beliefs with other people. It's sharing painful stories with other people as they're real. That's the root of all evil. There's a difference between a truth and a belief, and it's this simple. If there's an exception to the truth, it's not a truth. If you get up on your roof and you step off of the roof of your house, you are going to fall, because gravity is truth. Gravity is truth because it applies to 100% of the people on this planet. But a belief, if there's one single exception on this planet, then it's a belief and not a truth. Some people in the world, and I was one of them, believe that making money is hard. And if you believe that making money is hard, you're going to make it hard. And it's not a truth that making money is hard. You have to bust your ass for a living is a belief, not a truth. Because I know a lot of people who aren't working very hard, they're not struggling, and they're making a lot of money, and they're making a great living. Not just a living, they're making a life. Your stories and your beliefs have created, are creating, and will create your circumstances. It's not life that's doing this to you. It's your stories and your beliefs. And it's unexamined stories and beliefs that are absolutely causing struggle in your life. Have caused struggle, are causing struggle, and will cause struggle. The difference between the new client that I started working with, where we found these stories, and I helped them excavate these stories that they're holding about sharing wealth, and you need to give your wealth away when you build it, and that's your whole purpose is to help everybody in your family, even when those people won't help themselves, and that's the reason they're struggling. Holding that painful belief and causing yourself to not create wealth because you don't want to give it away to people that you don't like. The difference between that person and my client that I've been working with for a year and a half, who feels free and who feels wealthy and who feels successful and who feels healthy and who feels loved and who feels loving. The difference between these two is the client that I've worked with for a year and a half has adopted new stories and new beliefs and new perspectives, and is seeing the world differently through a different lens, through different beliefs and through different stories. And it's those new beliefs and those new stories that are running their life in a way where wealth is building, success is continuing to stack, relationship with their family is evolving and getting more and more powerful and impactful. That drama is making its way out of her life, and joy is making its way in her life. The difference between these two, the new client and the existing client, is one now sees a story and the other saw the stories and created a different story. And time will tell if the new client will take these new stories, or these potential new stories, and embed them in their operating system so that the hardware runs differently. Because that's all this is about. Your hardware is not broke. But if you're struggling in your health, in your wealth, in your career, in your relationship, your software needs some adjustment. But you are not broken. Your operating system just might need some reprogramming, some reconditioning, because your beliefs and your stories are creating your outcome. The question I have for you And we'll end it this way. The question I have for you is, are you so protective and guarded? Are you so defensive about how you see life that you're not willing to examine your beliefs and stories, that they might be true and they might be untrue? Are you so egotistical that, and are you in such a level of unhealthy pride that you're not willing to examine whether you're right or not? And if that's the case, if you're defending your beliefs and stories on a daily basis, if you're so attached to them, you're going to continue to struggle, and you might even continue to blame it on other people. But if you're willing to drop the belief or the perspective that you need to be right about anything, if you're willing to examine your beliefs, and if you're willing to examine your stories, then you're willing to adopt other beliefs and other stories, then you're opening yourself up to a completely different world of new circumstances, new opportunities, and your life is about to upgrade in many, many ways. Because your old belief and old story got you here. It's not going to get you to the next level. If you aren't willing to let go of your beliefs and stories, then there's no sense of even listening to new podcasts or reading new books, because you're just defending what you already know. But if you are open, it's go time. It's go time. And if you really want to hit the gas, reach out. We'll see how we can make magic together. But listen, there's always another level. There's always another way to upgrade everything in your life. And I'll share this with you. The greatest scientists in the world go to work every day, not to prove themselves right, but to prove themselves wrong and find something even better and more helpful and more useful to society. But they don't defend what they already know, and they don't defend what they've already, and I'm air quoting, proven. They're looking for that next level that's going to help even more. Are you the scientist that defends what you think you already know, or are you the scientist that tries to disprove what you already know so that you can prove something even higher? Which one are you? And if you're the scientist, if you're the entrepreneur, if you're the business owner, if you're the professional, if you are the human being that's after that next level, I'd love to connect with you. Reach out to me. We'll hit the gas, and we'll change every single circumstance in your life.